I'm just adjusting to the body.
Yep. How's the body going?
It feels good, although there is some food in the stomach that is a bit too spicy.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing a memory of mine.
Mm-hmm.
On this earth, the trees were very, very big and they were swaying in the wind. And I was looking up at the trees. It was a blustery type of day, admiring for them for their beauty. There are not many trees like this anymore.
What kind of trees are they? Do they have a name? Like, is it the Californian trees or?
Yes, they look somewhat like Californian redwoods,
Mm-hmm.
although they are a different type of tree that does not exist anymore. The bark is not so red. They are deciduous trees, big, 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 tall trees, and of course, very big, very, very big. The
Mm-hmm.
trunks are very enormous. And I'm just looking at the earth as it was back then. And there are prairies and rolling hills, and they are all being, it's a windy day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wearing some golden armor type of clothing. And I'm looking up at this. The earth was very beautiful once upon a time.
Mm-hmm. And did they have years when you were here last? Like if
Years, like as in time.
mm,
Um, Let me see. It was from when Atlantis collapsed. And after that point, there was a period of unrest, and then we came. So you might think around 27,000, 25,000 years ago. Then that was the earliest point that some Elohim started to come
mm-hmm.
at this time. I came. It's hard to think of the times exactly
Mm-hmm.
because the time doesn't exist for us. We don't particularly measure it in a sense. So, and then I was there for some time afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Elohim were there, and some stayed longer than me, but eventually they left once it got to I'm going to say 10,000 years ago period. This is when they all left around this type of period.
And why did they leave?
And the earth got too dense.
Oh,
It got too dense and we didn't want to interfere anymore. We were concerned that we had interfered too far.
So, and that was allowed, like at that time, to interfere, because I think is there a rule of no interference?
Yes. Well, there was an emergency clause, like in the case of an emergency, which was the case, we were allowed to interfere. I say allowed, but there is not an authority higher over us except for God. So we are just responsible to ourselves and to the silent watchers.
And who are the silent watchers?
These are a group of beings that are part of the Elohim, but like another evolution of the Elohim. They are beings that, like the Elohim, they participate in the creation of solar systems and galaxies, and they allow their gigantic forms to hold creation. Like they can contain creation aspects within their giant bodies.
And did they take on human forms, or were they human?
At sometimes they have taken on human forms, like a starseed type of thing. Do you know Mother Mary, for example? Aspect of her soul that was delivered to at that time is she is a part of a silent watcher.
Okay. So has she incarnated here many times?
Not too many times, actually. Earth is not preferable for her vibration, like me.
So is that why has Jesus been back since that time that he was Jesus, or?
I'm not seeing that he has been back since this time except in spirit form.
Do they hold the same vibration, or?
Yes. They hold the same vibration, and Jesus, his aspect of soul, his fragment is the same as, the being known as Elohim, Yahweh, or Sananda, or the Elohim of purity, the white ray. This being is him. This
Mm,
higher self is this being, and
mm,
it's known by a few names.
okay. And so what were you doing? You said that you had a battle. You were by the tree, and then you had like a battle.
I did not have a battle. I was traveling from one place to another,
Sorry,
and
armor.
I was,
I think you said.
yes, in armor. Yes.
Mhm,
Well, I was on the way from one camp to another camp,
mhm,
and I was wearing some armor, and we were traveling. I
mhm,
just decided to take a break from the people and from the tents. I decided to walk out here on my own, to
mhm,
take a break and to take a walk and just to be at peace. And there were these giant trees, and they were very beautiful.
mhm.
And then afterwards, I walked back, or flew back somewhat as well. Sometimes I flew, sometimes I walked. It really depends on how I was feeling that day.
Mhm.
Sometimes I just like to take a walk, to walk around.
Can imagine
And
flying for fun.
yes, so sometimes I am seeing, I flew up to these trees and then I was swinging from the top, like in the wind,
Mhm,
clinging to the tops and looking down and over the earth. And it was, well, it would be considered primitive compared to today's standard. But if I looked out over, it was nature at this point.
mhm,
Atlantis was the most civilized point, and then Egypt, and well, Atlantis had fallen. So I was looking around and there wasn't many things happening if I could see. I see some of our tents over there, some of the horses, whatnot, and I can see them very easily because my eyes are different from a regular person.
mhm,
So I can zoom in and see more clearly
mhm,
what is happening. So I went up to this tree and I was looking around, just looking, and nobody could see me. I mean, if they came to that point and looked up in the tree, they could. I liked to be alone a lot of the time. So when I did walking, I walked someplace where there was no people because I just liked to take a break from the people.
mhm. And like, do you? Is there something that happens when you're next to a tree, or do you take strength from them, or?
Yes, I can communicate with the tree,
Mhm,
and it's a very strong being. And I'm looking somewhere else in the distance, and there is a pack of animals, big, hairy animals.
mhm.
They are walking in a row. I believe you would call these things mammoths.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking and watching them. There are some animals here and there that I am looking
What would you say the antediluvian world of paradise was?
Well, I guess this is the sort of period that they were referring to,
Mm-hmm.
but actually it's beyond this point as well, into much earlier times when I guess the earth was, before it had fallen so much, in a sense, before the vibration had hit very, very low points. The trees were very big and there were many forests that covered the earth, and the animals were strong and big, and everything was in more harmony. The energy it felt different. And there are tall mountains and rivers and lakes that they are not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe in this day and age they are much smaller compared to these mountains. They are like worn down in a sense. So it was very, very wild, the earth at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking around and flying, and I can see some of the elk-like things that I used as my riding animal.
Mm-hmm.
And this was how I found my elk to begin with. I was on the earth and I was flying around and I saw it, and I knew that it is destiny that we were to meet.
Mm-hmm.
So I flew down and I was very quiet. I started to talk to this elk, and it was alone at that point. We started to have a conversation in our minds telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the elk if it would be happy to join me on my journey. I'm just seeing it's in a forest clearing, and there is me, and then there is the elk,
Mm-hmm.
and we are just look like we are looking at each other, but we are exchanging words inside the mind. And I asked him if he wanted to come with me because he seemed like he had a warrior spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yes, I do want to see the world beyond the forest. I would like to join you on your journey. Will you look after me? Will I be taken care of? And I said, of course, I will look after you. And he said that if it would be okay, if I can be led to roam in the different areas where I might go, and if he could roam in the places where there might be some females of his kind. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, yes, I will take you to these places, and if I see females, I will let you roam. And he was happy with this because he wanted to make many babies, I guess. He wanted to roam in new areas and meet some new females. So I allowed him to do this, and we had an agreement, and I looked after him very well.
What were the trees and animals like at this time?
They were very gentle, very, very gentle. It's like they didn't know fear as much yet. They were strong in their beingness. They were very strong-willed. It's like as the humans fell in density, they subjugated these beings, pushed them down so, and made them scared.
Mm-hmm. So as the humans grew in density, could it be said that the animals did as well, or?
The animals disassociated themselves from the humans,
Okay.
and then the entire world fell into density, including the animals. They became more aggressive and stupid. As a matter of fact, the big beasts that used to walk the earth, a lot of them were very gentle.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this, a lot of them were hunted to extinction in later years because they were so gentle. It was easy pickings for the humans that had fallen too far into density.
Mm-hmm. Were there giants at this time? Were there really giants and or giant humans in the days?
Big people,
Yeah.
yes, there were some big people, but
Mm-hmm.
they were not like huge, like a skyscraper level. They were just very tall and big. For example, like do you know some pictures in Edwardian times of the world's tallest man?
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
type of thing. This is a remnant of DNA from these times. So this man, it was an abnormal event, but he actually brought forward this DNA that used to exist. And this was one of the experiments of the human people. There were small ones and there was big ones. And sometimes the big ones interbred with the normal ones.
Mm-hmm. Is this
They were,
was it
sorry.
different to the giants and things like that, like interbreeding with the humans?
These things were actually giants.
Oh,
They
okay.
were just very big people. What you call giants is, I guess, a misconception of what there used to be on the earth, the different sorts of people,
Mm-hmm.
the seeding of different types of humanoids that was done by extraterrestrials long ago.
Mm-hmm.
They had some different looking ones. They had some big ones and they had some small ones. And they were just seeing which ones could survive the best on the earth.
When the angels were the angels that were interbreeding with the humans, is that what the result of of giants, or were they normal
Uh,
humans?
Not really. They got this confused and mixed up, but sometimes the angels were more taller than regular humans, the bodies they manifested for themselves. So these humans would have been like a head or two taller than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you get this type of thing. For example, Apollo was much taller than the average person. He was like, a couple of heads taller than the average person. He was taller than me too, the body that I manifested.
Mm-hmm.
So when they saw him, they were like, wow, he is like a giant. type of thing, but actually he was just very tall.
And that's the body that he manifested for himself, just at all.
Yes, yes, it was just very tall.
Mhm.
And same with me, I was tall as well. We manifested tall bodies because we thought it would be better for the situation we were going into to be bigger than average to the rest of the people,
Mhm.
for combat purposes.
And did that work in your favor?
Yes, I think it did. I think I think it did well, but I think more of our skills and powers, you would say, would help more than the actual height of the body, but it did make things easier in a lot of aspects.
Mm-hmm. The higher dimensional humanoids that you spoke of that existed in dinosaur times, who were they?
Or this was the very first, I guess, human life forms on Earth at these times. So they did not have physical bodies. They just had light bodies, these humans. They just had bodies made of magnetized light. And they were around for quite a long time. And actually into the time period where I was talking about I came last time, there was still some there, but most of them had left at this point because the earth was no longer preferable to them. But they were around for quite some time, actually, I'm seeing. They were just, it's like they existed on higher aspects of the earth reality. What you know of as cities of light, they existed in these places, or villages of light on a higher dimensional point. And they still have some of these. There's still cities of light on the earth today. However, you can't see them with your human eyes quite yet. But someday they will become visible, or you may catch a glimpse. For example, like the rumors and stories of castles in the sky. This type of thing comes from, well, times when people have seen strange higher dimensional UFOs or higher dimensional cities existing.
So how can somebody see like something like that? Like how does that happen? Is that when the vibration elevates?
Yes, when the vibration matches the frequency of that which is wanting to be seen, then it will be seen. And sometimes these beings, especially in the UFOs, they lower their vibration just for a second to enable a human, which is a starseed or other being, to see them
Mm-hmm.
just for a second there, so that they can, well, be comforted by the knowing that of how things really are.
Is that what happened to your lower self? that she saw the UFOs on her walk?
Well, actually, these ones were what you would call physical ones, in a sense. They were able to be seen for longer periods of time because they matched her vibrational frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So these ones were different ones to the ones that I'm talking about, these very much higher vibrational ones that my lower self has seen for a few seconds,
Mm-hmm.
that lowered their frequency in order to be seen. And I'm just going to give examples of which ones there are. So there was one that was a pink square or pink rectangle, and it had a sheen on it that was a green sort of sheen and tiles. So a pink tiled rectangle. And this one was from Andromeda. So the Andromedans, they had this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one that she has seen was like a diamond shape, two pyramids on top of each other type of shape. And this one was an Arcturian one, and she saw it above the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one that she has seen in this case, which was an Elohim one.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just trying to say hello in this instance. And it looked like, I will describe, the Elohim ships look like a marble sculpture with floral arrangements around it, and in a sort of two cones on top of each other shape. And
Mm-hmm.
it looks like it's made from white marble with columns and column type of structure type of things and flower sort of decorative. It's very, very decorative.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an abstract marble sculpture. And this is what the Elohim one looks like.
Mm-hmm. And like the one that she saw, was she taken up there or what happened there?
Yes, yes, she doesn't. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. But there was no problems. There was no problems. But when she was there, she does not realize that time can be changed in a sense because it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So they split time, and then she was flashed up there in, I'm just getting the image of lots and lots of the body turning into light
Mm-hmm.
and then going to there. And these ships, there was around 12 of them, 12 there. And she went there and she's just looking around in the Galactic Federation type of things. And they wiped the memory afterwards of this, except she knows that something happened because she saw it. She was allowed to see that far.
Mm-hmm.
However, she's very frustrated, and the conscious mind is reacting to this somewhat. She wants to experience it so much.
Mm-hmm.
However, when she was up there, she began to cry. She began to cry because she does not like to live on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not because it's not because her memory isn't wiped because she was scared. No, no, no. Her memory is always wiped because she doesn't want to go back. It's too painful for her.
Mm-hmm.
So she was crying, and then some beings were holding her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just getting emotional at this point because I don't like the earth at this point yet. There is still some long way to go
Mm-hmm.
in regards to raising the vibration. And so she was given some healing to do with this because she wanted to, well, it is me and I always want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the vibration is still not preferable for my beingness. So I chose to be here to help, but at great sacrifice to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that when people remember this, how much sacrifice that we did give, because it was great. Many star seeds left their families behind,
Mm-hmm.
and there are many similar situations. So they hugged her and they helped her with the next aspect. They activated her body.
Mm-hmm.
They gave an activation for her body so she can go on to the next level of incorporating the higher energies that need to be distributed to the earth,
Mm-hmm.
like a powerhouse of energy. Her body is. So Arcana, he was with her as well, and they assisted to do this to upgrade the body. That's why when she went to the fair yesterday and ate the potato swirly on a stick. I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember this thing. It looks like, I'm just going to call it a potato swirly. So it was deep fried, and this was not preferable for the body anymore because the body has lifted up so much in vibration since this point. So she is going to have to be a lot more careful with the food from now on. Otherwise, she will be reaching in the back of her mouth to throw it up because she is so upset with the food.
Mm-hmm.
This was a reunion for me with the beings, the extraterrestrial beings, some of them whom I worked with, and my soul family. Some of them were there, and it was very, very much a reunion for the lower self. So the memory had to be wiped, otherwise she would not return.
Mm-hmm. So that's why she wasn't, even though no time had, from what she could see, no time had passed.
No time had passed, no. It's like we cut time, split time, and then took her out of time and then placed her back in time at the place that she was before, so she could continue the walk without scaring the parents or mother.
Mm-hmm.
Not the parents. There is only one parent in her life, but she lives with her mother, and the mother would be concerned if she did not make it home in time.
Mm-hmm. Does this happen often to star seeds and that can elevate
Yes,
vibration high enough?
yes, yes, yes. Certain ones, definitely. There are some that are not paying attention at this point, and they will need to be activated further, but there are ones that are taken up there, most certainly, and time is split, so they have no recollection. They are taken out of time and
Mm-hmm.
then placed back at the point where they were. So this is happening to many beings on the earth who are star seeds at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I must mention it has also happened to you, but you were unaware of this.
Oh wow. So how did that who took me up there?
I'm seeing the Arcturians.
Mm-hmm.
They were responsible for this.
Okay. Was there an upgrade provided or?
Yes, yes, yes. They helped you with some things.
That's good. Is it done during sleep hours most of the time, or it's just as what was I doing at the time?
Well, I'm viewing that you were on the computer actually.
Oh, okay.
You were on the computer or on your devices, and then it was like very, very simple for them because you were distracted by something.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Um, are there beings and ETs watching these sessions on YouTube?
Yes, they have been watching.
Mm-hmm.
They have been watching and monitoring these things. Not to make sure that I don't say anything rude or anything like that, because they know that I'm very responsible.
Mm-hmm.
But they are watching because the information, some of this has not come through for years and years and years. So they are watching people's reactions to this information. The people watching these videos, they are watching them to figure out, how they feel about this information.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could say that I speak the truth in a sense, because I was very much tired of hearing the BS again and again and again, the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of various messages being brought through in the new age community my lower self was looking at,
Mm-hmm.
and they were absolutely nothing like what had occurred. So at this point, I thought that it would be best to start the education,
Okay.
because there was too much misinformation, I guess, coming through
Mm-hmm.
from various sources. I don't know if you remember, but before I said that more than half of channeled information is actually false.
Mm-hmm.
This is because of, beings that come through and they just want to feel the body. They don't want to provide teachings and information, but there are some that do. So we mustn't throw the baby out with the bathwater in this instance. There are many messages that are very good and beneficial. However, there are lots of them that are not. And I just wanted to, there was lots of misinformation around, especially what you know as the Anunnaki, which was the Elohim beings. Well, a lot of them were referred to as Anunnaki, but there were good ones and what you would call negative ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to provide the perspective that has not been, I guess, seen for many, 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 many years to do with this. There are lots and lots of misinformations about the Anunnakis because there are many interests at play here. There are agendas to do with this information, what happened in the past in regards to the Earth and extraterrestrial beings coming to assist humans.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the misinformation that is out there about the Anunnaki?
Well, all of the, the Zachariah Sitchin or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
all of these type of writings and so forth, it is not the full story and it is not fully correct in this instance. There are many, many, many instances in history of, well, incorrect information being recorded because it was so long ago, the times that we are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these myths and stories, these are not reliable information. However, some of them have remained, such as the Orion story, but in the Greek myth, but it has been very much altered in a sense from the original. So you can't go looking at these types of things anymore as any sort of truth because we are talking about generations and generations and generations of humans here.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, when they pass this story down through the oral tradition, which it was passed down, it loses some of it with each generation that passes. So, bits are made up to keep the story going, to keep it flowing in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why you have a lot of situations where a lot of these myths and legends don't make a lot of sense because bits were made up to correct the bits that were missing in the story.
Okay. So who were the Anunnaki?
Well, they were Elohim, but they just called them Anunnaki. But they were actually Elohim, and some Anunnaki were like Set. Set was referred to as an Anunnaki, but we know he is not an Elohim being.
Mm-hmm.
So they referred to a variety of extraterrestrial beings as Anunnakis.
Would you say it was a lazy label?
Yes, it was just like a one size fits all label.
Yeah.
But words matter, and we are not all of the same in a sense. Like some people call all beings demons, even though light beings are certainly not at that level.
Mhm. Was the Ark of the Covenant also used as a weapon?
Yes, it could be used in this sense in
Mhm.
an emergency. In
Mhm.
an emergency situation, you could talk to this or the special person who was in charge of this box, who could talk to it, who could communicate with this. Then they would ask this to be used like this, and there was either a yes or no answer whether it could be used in this way,
Mhm.
because this energy was provided by the Elohim. This, I guess, this box, it was like something that was programmed with the Elohim, and they programmed this, and you could ask it for things to help people, but in this instance it would have to be an emergency, and well, it's like a giant phone to reach the Elohim sort of a
Mhm.
thing. So, if the person does not receive a yes on the other end of the line, then of course they cannot use it for this purpose.
Mhm. So how was it used as a weapon?
Oh, it was used to, okay, so can you imagine if the power of Elohim was used in this sense? And I'm just seeing that it could create some earth-shaking earthquakes and extreme storm type of things that created lightning bolt type of explosions. So it could do a variety of things to the elements around it and create a big noise. But this was also something that the Elohim could do on a much bigger scale when they came to Earth, this sort of skill.
Mhm. And was there this ark, people could go in it? Is that right?
No, it was just a box. It was just a box covered in gold
Okay.
and filled with programmed crystalline material, crystalline sheets
Mhm.
that could channel the energy of and receive directly the Elohim's information and indirect sort of this was created, it's Elohim technology in a sense. So it was, when you look at it, it doesn't look like very much. Looks
Mhm.
like a golden box with crystal sheets in the middle. Crystal sheets, like a clear quartz type of looking material. However, the way the sheets are, they are a technology actually that can be used to, like a phone to the Elohims.
Mhm. 'Cause I think
And it
there's,
had,
yeah, go on.
sorry, it had different metals in it, I'm seeing.
Mhm.
It had gold, but it had some silver as well and conductive materials and sheets of crystal and some strange sort of feet made out of clay. Very interesting.
And what was the purpose of that device? Just so that the humans could communicate with Elohim, did you say?
Yes, so that some people could communicate with Elohim, especially with Yahweh.
Mm-hmm. Is the Ark of the Covenant in Ukraine?
Well, I'm seeing there was one there in a castle or something. It was in a place where I'm just seeing it was this very wealthy sort of surroundings,
Mm-hmm.
like a very wealthy building, and it was in a room of this particular building, and they hid it here. The dark ones hid it here. Well, the ones that you would call, the cabal or whatnot, on that type of side of things.
Mm-hmm.
They hid it in this room. And this was belonging to a private family, one of the families, and it was hidden in somebody's house, in somebody's like a mansion type of house. That's why I said castle, because it looked like a very big house.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in somebody's mansion. And they did hide it in here, but they didn't know how to use it.
Is that what Putin is trying to obtain?
Well, it was not just what he was trying to obtain. He was trying to do a whole heap of things, but Putin is not actually in control of Russia. There is a secret society that is in control of Russia that directs what Putin is doing at the time. There are people behind the scenes, and they wanted to obtain this, but they also wanted to defeat the child traffickers from this area and the biological warfare that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is so Russia is run by a Chinese secret society,
Okay.
and they were very tired of the bullshit that was going on in Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to deal with it, but they also found this arc. This was very much, it was a surprise for them to find this, I'm seeing. They were so shocked. They took this back to China.
Mm. So where did they find it?
They found it in the mansion because there was reports that there were children hidden in the basement of this mansion. So they went in and had a look or whatnot because they were tired of the various illegal activities that were going on with the human trafficking, and these sort of things need to be brought to a stop before we can have the new financial system.
Mm-hmm.
So they are very much like racing against the clock to try and implement this and stop the human trafficking is a big part of implementing the new financial system. So when they found this, they ransacked the place and they found the ark in a room. And thankfully, some of them had a feeling about it, and they called some people in, and they inspected it, and they dated it and decided that they knew what it was actually, and so this was whisked away.
Mm-hmm. And has this arc been around a lot of places, or?
I'm seeing that this ark was originally in Russia, but they stole the ark from the Romanov family. The Romanov family was in possession of this ark,
Mm-hmm.
and when they killed these people, they stole it from them. It was in their palace, and Rasputin was attempting to communicate with the ark, but it would not listen to him because he is very evil.
So do you have to match a certain vibration for it to communicate back to you?
Yes, this is why they had attendants of the ark, a being or a person that would be chosen in order to communicate with the ark in ancient times. There would be a person who would meditate day and night almost and keep their vibration very high and have a vegetarian diet, and they would be the ones in communication with the ark.
And what was important about them having a vegetarian diet?
Well, it was believed that meat would contaminate their vibration at this point. So they made them be, I guess, very monk-like in a sense, and very pure, and tried to get these people as well to abstain from having sex because it was believed that another person's energies could contaminate their field. So they were very monk-like in a sense, the attendants of the ark.
Okay. So where did the monk sort of belief system come from? From these times, or?
Well, not only from these times, but the Kalu people had something to do with this as well. Some of their practices were brought forth and they made their way into what is known as Tibet and the Himalayas.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, I guess, the Kalu people traveled eastward, and then they found their way into India and this place, and that is where they brought some of their teachings, but some of their teachings were lost.
Mm-hmm. And the Cabal people that you mentioned just before, so are they part of a dark one society, would you say?
Yes, this is a dark one society. So
Mm-hmm.
this society can trace its roots back to Atlantean times. Some of the bloodlines in these societies, and they have the two-headed eagle as in their symbols sometimes, and this is a reference to Atlantis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
So this was the Dark Brotherhood, so going back all to that time.
And are the Freemasons associated with them as well, or is that different?
Yes, 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 I'm talking about the Freemasons in particular. In particular, these ones guess they kept some of the knowledge of the Dark Brotherhood of Atlantis. So going back all from that time, and if you go higher into the ranks of this type of thing, you will get to know more and more about the Dark Brotherhood of that time. They will let you know more and more about their secrets.
Would you say that the world leaders and controllers are aware of the Elohim?
Yes, they were, and they were scared that we would come back because of what they were doing. And some of them were lunatics in a sense. Well, it's not just world leaders. Well, when I'm talking about world leaders, I'm talking about the leaders behind the leaders that you don't get to see on the TV. The silent hand from behind the curtain. And some of them were scared that the Elohim would come back. And some of them were completely nutty. They were completely insane and wanted to do very bad things so that the Elohim could come back. There was different factions in a sense. Some of them desired for this, and some of them were scared of what would happen if they come back and they would punish them or something.
So would you say that they thought that they would come back as manifest bodies for themselves in a physical form, or?
Yes, well, that was the plan for them. They thought that they would come again, but we did not come that way this time. We came in human bodies so that to make it a lot easier on ourselves, or not easier on ourselves, but easier for everyone else on the planet not to intervene too much in this. But also we didn't want to give them the benefit of the doubt and for their plan to be, I guess, parts of their plan to be ticking in motion if they were expecting us to come in that way with trumpets blazing and whatnot like before. But we still put a wrench in their plans, even from behind the scenes in human bodies. I have interrupted many ceremonies of this nature where they were doing some very bad things, and I interrupted and scared the life out of some people, let's just say.
How did you interrupt? Like in a physical, well, obviously in a spirit form.
I appeared at a ceremony where little ones were about to get raped and killed. So I appeared and I'm seeing that I completely blinded some of the participants in this ceremony. And they were yelling and carrying about. I blinded them with my light.
Oh, okay.
Oh dear. And then they fall to the ground and cover their eyes. It's pretty crazy for my lower self to see. Excuse me. But yes, I can be in many places at once, and sometimes on the odd occasion decided to make an appearance at their special ceremonies. And if they were afraid that we were going to spoil their fun, then I guess they would be correct.
So these ceremonies that they have, there's like, I think there's people that say that they harvest the anachrome or something like that. That's the purpose of getting the kids scared.
Yes, this material. There is lots of information about this material for people to see nowadays. But it is not only about the creation of this material, it is about the spiritual creation of material that comes from this as well, that feeds the beings that participate in these ceremonies. It is like a twofold type of thing, where not only are they getting this material and getting drunk in a sense, they are also feeding beings that feast on these ceremonies, and in a black magic sort of sense, they ask these beings for favors to, I guess, for their purpose, their greater purpose. And the beings, they carry on with this greater purpose. So this keeps the system going, in a sense. Once they are little demonic minions, I wouldn't say minions because it is like a currency in a sense. They are feeding the currency to these beings, and then the beings, once they receive the currency, they will do what they are told.
So they're easily manipulated that way.
Well, not easily manipulated. They manipulate the humans into continuing this practice. Because if they just helped the humans out of the good of their heart, then they would not need to do any of this. But they don't have any of that to speak of, so and they continue with this.
So is that coming to an end at some point, or?
Yes, it's coming to an end. It's the vibrations of the earth are continuing up and up and up, and it will no longer be possible in the near future. I'm not saying in the distant future, in the near future, because collectively, humanity, enough of them know about this now that they want to put a stop to this. Through the social media and other means, people have begun to figure out that something is wrong. And they have collectively decided that they don't want to deal with this anymore, even if it's a small percentage of people who know about this. It's going to become enough to be a tipping point where this is exposed, and that there will be no more of this anymore because humanity has made a choice.
Thank you for that. What are those I think the Freemasons have the tiles, the black and white tiles. What does that represent?
This represents the black and white pyramids of Egypt in the beginning, the ones that Thoth designed before Egypt, the tiles fell off it, and the black one went into ruin and dust, and the white one went into ruin and dust, but was built up a bit more. It did not go into ruin and dust as much as the black one. it was built up more again. The white one was more salvageable, and then the black one in its place they built where the Sphinx is. So that one was not salvageable, but this represented the time before times. This represented the original time with the black and the white pyramid. So they know this information, but they kept it secret because they are of the Black Brotherhood, but the Dark Brotherhood was also, they came into the Egyptian priesthood. So some of these Masons can trace their information from parts of the Egyptian priesthood as well.
And does it have any special, like, is it just to represent themselves in a public forum?
With the black and white tiles,
Yeah.
the black and white is representative of the two forces of the universe, which was what the pyramids originally represented in that sense. The chaos and the order, the black and the white, the dark and the lightness, the feminine and the masculine, the separation and the unity, this type of thing.
Okay. Noah's flood in the Bible, was this a real event? And what happened?
So I'm seeing this was a collection of like a myth type of story. But there were many floods actually that occurred, and many people passed down through history, oral tradition, stories of the times before when there was a big flood. So in a sense, this was conflated into a story that was like a teaching moment for people. So not only did it have information from, well, the floods that existed on Earth, but it was a teaching moment about listening to the inner self and what it has to say. Because many people actually, there were many iterations of this. When people listened to their higher selves, and then the people around them in those times were like, don't be silly, nothing's going to happen. And then those people, they were like, I don't care. And then they went to the mountains or they went away because their inner voice told them that they had to move. And then they didn't get washed away. So there were many people actually that were like this. And they were the people that survived and continued on the story. And then they tell the story to the generation and the generation after. This story about how when the world was washed away.
So by washed away, they meant the floods.
Yes, the floods. Lots and lots of rain that went around the world. In some places, they didn't have this, but in a lot of places, they did because of, let's just say when a big body or comet flashes into the ocean, there is a lot of evaporation of the water, and then this becomes clouds and then rains. And so a big event like this would be cataclysmic for humanity. So there was many times when this happened actually.
So were there multiple catalysts catalysms of the earth, that where the earth was wiped out and the humanity was no longer.
Not entirely, not entirely wiped out.
Mhm.
There was still some people to carry on the stories, but in many places, some people were wiped out. In some places have been more protected than others, so the cultures have been preserved in these places a bit more than other places, for example.
Mhm.
But, you know, over and over again, this has occurred, and sometimes it is to do with, well, humans. They did not do things right, so there was a karmic sort of situation for them. That's like a big wake-up call
Mhm.
for them. So this is where this sort of information comes from about, like a divine sort of intervention where the earth is flooded. It is more of a karmic sort of thing than that, like a big wake-up call for humanity
Mhm.
to begin again.
So, what were the effects of the catalysms events? But from
Well,
what else happened?
well, the people that were around afterwards had to start from square one, pretty much. So everything was very scary for a while,
Mhm.
and then things were built up again. But some of these cataclysms involved human intervention, such as the sinking of Lemuria by the Atlanteans and the Atlanteans sinking. And this was another type of flood event that occurred because there was big tsunamis that came in certain parts of the earth, and it would have looked like a flood that washes everything away,
Mhm.
because the sinking of a continent, of course, is very huge, or a big island anyway. And so people were very scared and went backwards each time that this happened, in a sense. They did not learn the lessons, actually, so they were made to repeat it again and again. So when you have a lifetime, for example, if you do not learn the lesson, you get a big wake-up call, and this wake-up call might end your life or something, and then you have to repeat it again and again. Well, it's like, in a sense, humanity is also reincarnating. The mass consciousness of humanity reincarnates, in a sense. And when you come to the end of that, then, and that is the end of one civilization or epoch and the beginning of another. So as you can see, there are lifetimes within lifetimes. The consciousness of humanity itself reincarnates. And this is what happens at the end of the incarnation. There is a point where it is decided, will humanity ascend, or will part of humanity ascend, or what will happen. And then if it doesn't happen, then, and it doesn't learn the lesson, then it needs to be repeated again and again and again until this is gotten right the next time.
Did the humans live long lives before the floods?
Well, at the beginning, yes. In the times that we came to Earth, very, very long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
the times after the extraterrestrials seeded the Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and then the humans, they had a civilization which was very free, and the Earth was very paradise-like. And in these times, people lived very long years, like 900, for example. They would grow to like 900 or 1,000 years old.
A long time.
Yes, it was a very long time,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like a long time to them because time was different in a sense. But at the same time, I don't feel like it was like your regular lifetime, except lots more things were happening in a sense. I don't know how to explain it because when I went to Earth last time, the Elohim, they lived for that long, and I guess that's why they had so many adventures that you hear about, doing this and doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and how they could fit in all of these adventures was because they lived an extraordinarily long amount of time, and then they left because they were extraterrestrial beings, of course, or compared to the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they were considered extraterrestrial beings. And there was hybrid beings that were on the Earth too, hybrid human extraterrestrials that lived a long time, like 1,000 years, like the people that lived before,
Mm-hmm.
that lived during this paradise time. They could live to 1,000 years. For example, the first human hybrid ruler of Egypt, he lived to be 1,000 years old, or around this time actually, like 900 and something.
So that's the reason that they could live for so long, because they
Well,
were.
because they were very much higher vibrational in a sense, and everything was working correctly. And it was more about their belief systems as well, like a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
And their light bodies were working correctly, and they did not have this programming within them that they would just die after a certain time. So we ended up living like, well, you would say it was not living for a long time. We manifested forms, and in those forms, we did not change for 1,000 years. They were just more like avatar type of bodies that we used to interact with the humans. But it was very strange in a sense too. At that time, the humans were living much less longer lives than before.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when we had classes that we would teach the humans some things, I would see like some people come to the class, and then their children will come to the class, and then their grandchildren, and then their children's children. And I was like I begin to feel a little bit strange, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm still hanging around, but you know, this was my job. I sort of felt sad if I got attached to a particular human, and it's like, you know, mm, and then they died,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, that one's so sad, you know. I liked that one, you know, and it was kind of strange because I kept to live long after that one, and I saw them getting old, and then they were like, and sometimes the people in the village called to me like, Lumina, it's your favorite one. Please see him. He is about to die. And I'm like, oh, him? I haven't seen him in a few, what I thought was a few years, but maybe I lost track of time. And then they were like, oh, now he's on his deathbed. Would you like to see him? And I'm like, oh, of course, I will see him. I haven't seen him for, what feels like a few weeks to me. I don't know. I lost track somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was, and I was like, oh, he really is dying, but I'm going to help him along with that. So sometimes I was there for some people who were very special to me to help them along into the next life. And in this lifetime, I did this too with my grandma. I helped her along with the death situation because sometimes they cling on to the body, and this is not necessary.
And why is
So I
that?
help I help them along.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, it is because they are scared of being just spiritual. Like the programming is so entrenched that they are scared to leave the body. They are scared of what is beyond that. But there is nothing to be afraid of in this sense, because when I can see that their spirits were moving out of the body, and they were like, wow, I'm free, this is amazing. And it was so happy for them and so good for them. And they could see all of their angels and families and guides, and they're like, thank you, Lumina. And then, some angels escorted them to where they wanted to go. So I was very happy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And when did we become scared of death, would you say?
Well, when things fell into density more and more, then people got more and more scared of
Mm-hmm.
things that were just part of life, like death. It's not scary to die. It's not scary at all. When I was a reptilian, I was tortured to death, but I just jumped out of my body before that happened. Like when I sent myself, a small part of myself down as a star seed to seed light in this civilization. I
Mm-hmm.
died in a very horrible way, but it was not scary for me because I was very advanced, and I just jumped out of the body and then watched for a little while what they did to my body, and then I continued on my way.
Can we ask that people embrace the death process more like once,
Yes,
and not to be so scared of it? Because I think with the programming of religion, I think that's one of I know a lot of people are scared to go to hell. Um,
yes. There's no such thing. It only, what they perceive as hell is just parts of the fourth dimension that were not cleaned out properly at the time. They were
mhm,
just full of shit. So it is just like what you would call the astral realm. If they went to this place and they got very scared, for example, because there was some lurgy type of things lurking around, and they perceived it as hell, but it was, in reality, they were mistaken because it was just the astral realm.
is there fire in the astral realm, or what's that about?
There's some beings that can make it look like there is some fire and that they are in some hell kind of brimstone situation.
Mhm.
And in reality, those beings are just sometimes they are sucking energy from these traumatized souls, and sometimes they are pulling a prank, for example, and pulling their leg. There's a couple of reasons why some people would perceive this,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they are very fearful when they die and they attract that type of energy straight to them when they die, and they wander into the lower fourth dimension and get a big shock because very much your thoughts become things.
Mm-hmm. And what happens when someone dies? Like, is there the guardian angels, the soul family waiting for them, or?
Yes, well, when my grandma died, my earth grandma,
Mhm.
I was there with her to help her with this, and she was clinging on and waiting for my mother and me.
Mhm.
And so I got the angels to help her, to assist, and I called in the God aspect. I called it in to help her, to assist her, because she was religious in a sense.
Mhm.
So I called in source energy, pure light, and I called this beautiful light from God into the room, and the angels and I held space for this, and the light traveled in the room.
Mhm.
And once she felt the love of this light, once she felt all of the love of source energy, how much love it had for her, she was able to let go of the body at this time. She
Mhm.
was finally able to let go of the body. So she left the body and she went up, up, up with the angels, and they carried her. And this was very, very beautiful. And the angels were linking wings and they made a portal, and then they pulled her through the portal when she was gone.
Mhm. What would your suggestion be to those people that are scared of death?
Now, there is nothing to be afraid of in this sense, especially if you know somebody in your family that is dying. You can do the same thing and call in the energy of God or Source into the room, and this will make the transition so much more easier for them. They will just release and just go straight into this beautiful, loving light.
Mhm.
This is the best sort of situation for someone who is very fearful and holding on.
What would you say to someone that thinks that the angels wouldn't come to them because they've been what they would perceive as bad in their lives?
There is so many funny perceptions about angels going around, but they are there for everyone actually. Even the angels are there to help demonic energies if they turn around and they want to return back to source. The angels are there for them
Mhm.
and saying, welcome back, you have been missed. And often these beings, they cry and they realize, I was missing this all along. This was something that I really, really wanted, but I didn't know. I thought I was so far gone. I thought that no one would save me. And they say, you're always welcome.
Mhm.
You're always loved, because this is the true reality of things.
Mhm.
This is how it really is.
Absolutely. The Tower of Babel incident, was this a real thing, what that happened, or a metaphor for what happened when humanity forgot telepathy?
So this was a point sometime after we left and humanity had forgotten telepathy entirely. So at one point you could be able to talk to various people, regardless of their, I guess, their language. And when humanity finally forgot telepathy and these sort of things, then most of the Elohim had gone. Some of them were still around, but quickly after that, they had gone. But this was, I guess, a story. There's lots of stories in the biblical text that are, well, like a teaching moment for humanity to understand later on what was meant by this, by humanity being able to talk to each other in a universal language. This is what telepathy is, and that humanity forgot this language. It is like falling from a tower where once you were so high in your spiritual stature and you fell down, down, down into density. And then from falling this far down, you cannot remember what it was. But I have telepathy even in my lower self. I can talk to Apollo. I can talk to members of my soul family and whatnot and other beings. My lower self is capable of this. And some of my friends of my lower self are also capable of this. And they are just realizing it now. And she told them they had an incident where they noticed that they received words straight into their mind. And she told them that, well, this means that you are telepathic. And then the other person was getting very excited because, yes, this is very much coming online again. And anyone can do this, actually. It was one of the last sort of special skills that humanity had. It was one of the last ones to go before the density and collapse. And they still had this for a long time. Even though, after Atlantis had fallen, more people were using the mouth to speak, as I have spoken of before. But there was still, a significant percentage of the population, maybe around 20%, that was still using telepathy.
And how can people harness that one, that skill, or bring it back to line?
Well, it's actually quite easy. It's really, really quite easy. So you start by, I guess, quieting the mind. You quiet the mind, and then you looking the other person in the eye and connecting in with them, connecting in with their energy. And once you log into their connection, log into that person's energy field and connect in with them. And looking into the eyes is a very easy way to begin this connection, is to look into their eyes. And so once you begin their connection, like the login point, when you connect with each other, then you can start to send thoughts to each other. That is why oftentimes the autistic people, they don't want to look in the eyes of others because they don't like the thoughts of what they see. They don't like the person's energy fields, so
Mhm.
they refuse to look them in the eyes.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Is this
Yeah. I'm
similar?
just going to say something. The autistic people are especially telepathic.
Also? So the people, is that the same with when people take pictures of them? They don't like looking to, like I've noticed some don't like looking straight forward. They just look.
Mm. Photos of them, yes. Well, they are more sensitive to the energies, so they don't want beings to necessarily look into their eyes because it's very much traumatic for them to be here in a sense and to be among these sort of disturbing energies. They are
Mhm.
very sensitive children.
They could have been said that only a small percent of them is here and the other somewhere else.
Like with the autistic people, well, their beingnesses are very large in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like me, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's, and very much so. There is, well, there is the part of me that you are speaking to, and there is 40% of the soul in the body, and then I can be in multiple places at once. So the autistic people are very advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And like, would they choose in many places in a lot of times to be a teacher for those around them, like maybe their parents and family members?
Yes, yes. In this case, there are some cases where these beings are teaching their family members and feeding light into their families. And also, a lot of them are star seeds. A lot of them, or like most of them actually, like all of them, are star seeds and higher beings.
Mm-hmm. And what would you describe a star seed is?
Well, like a sensitive being from another place that is volunteering to help. But some people get diagnosed with autism that do not have autism, and they are not star seeds in this sense. What what you would know of as autism is typically a star seed being. That's why I said almost all of them are star seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So a star seed is some being that helps to raise up the vibration and see the light of a particular place. They do not need to reincarnate, is what I'm trying to say. It's a volunteer. It's
Mm-hmm.
a volunteer job. They are too advanced. They don't need to reincarnate again and again. They just help for a small time.
Mm-hmm. And is there a lot that have come at this time?
Yes, yes, yes. Many, many. There have been like a giant influx of them.
Mm-hmm.
That is what the plan is, a giant influx of star seeds.
Is that so we could all elevate our consciousness at this time?
Yes, this was part of the plan to save humanity
Mm-hmm.
and to save the earth as well, because it was just not going to be feasible otherwise.
Mm-hmm. What happened during the catalysm that scientists call the Younger Dryas event?
Okay, so this happened sometime when the Elohim was still on the earth. There was a rapid change in the climate that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and the earth began to change. And because of the change, many people, well, unfortunately, they were displaced or they passed away, did not react very well to this rapid event. And I'm seeing that it was very much like a cataclysm type of event. And there was lots of type of flooding, like mud floods in areas of the earth that were wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
There was geological activity, and this created a rapid change in the climate. So a series of geological activities around the earth, earth shakings and eruptions. It was like this had coincided with the solar activity
Mm-hmm.
from the sun. This created this. It's not necessarily like comet, like people were saying. There were comets at different times, but in this particular one, it was like in relation to things that were happening in the solar system that were creating geological activities on the earth that rapidly changed the climate. There was in that time a big sort of solar event, and that is what created this earth shaking type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Geomagnetic fields of the earth were warped around and affected by this, and it began to shake the earth and change the climate incredibly rapidly. I am wondering if this type of thing will happen again. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that type of thing.
Mm. Well, that was going to be my next question as to is that what we're heading into with all the eruptions around the world and different.
Well, the solar flash,
Mm-hmm.
there is a beautiful aspect, but just know that there is also the potential that it could rapidly affect the Earth's magnetic field to change things rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
Big Earth changes. And this will not be preferable for many people.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing that there is some people who are actually in positions of power that are aware of this, and it will not be as catastrophic as before because you have the technology in this instance to help control this, to make the effects not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to stop myself because I don't want people to get frightened of this solar flash event because it's very, very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But this was essentially what happened a very long time ago when what you would call the Younger Dryas event. It was like there was a solar flash in an instance,
Mm-hmm.
but it did not have the same effect that this one will have. This one will have a different effect on the consciousness of the people.
In what way would you say?
Well, in the people back then, it did give them a big wake-up call, but it was not enough to evolve all of them to the next level. It did evolve some of these beings, some of these humans, to higher dimensional levels, and then they continued on upwards and outwards of the cycle of reincarnation on the earth. There was a lot of people after this Younger Dryas event that were freed from the reincarnation cycles due to their evolution reaching a certain point. So this was like a harvesting of souls, what they refer to as the wheat being harvested, or the chaff and the wheat, this type of situation, the wheat being harvested from the chaff or taken away.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the saying of this, but you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of the cycles that humans could choose to evolve or not. And the next one, we are hoping that the harvest will be much more fruitful in a sense, because it's like we have reached a breaking point with humanity, that they cannot continue on like they have before ever again, and they are reaching Atlantis levels. So they have come back into the cycle and reached the point that they were at before. Except, it would be helpful if there were more psychic abilities to be brought online at this time. But these are coming alive rapidly. But we will reach another harvest point, and there will be another solar flash like what happened in this Younger Dryas event. And it will affect humanity for years and years and years afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. The 144,000 in the Bible, what does that refer to?
Well, in a sense, this refers to the star seeds, but also to the amount of, well, I guess you would be able to broaden this number now,
Mm-hmm.
because the harvest was only thought at this point that it would be small. So, these fortune tellers and psychics and beings that had human beings that had contacts with the divine, that helped to bring this information forward at that time. At that time, it was projected that there would only be that amount of souls that was available for the harvest after the solar flash event.
Mm-hmm.
And by harvest, I don't mean anything bad about it. I mean that they break out of the cycle of reincarnation on the earth and evolve to the fifth dimension and be higher beings.
Mm-hmm.
So it was only thought that this amount of people would make the jump, but there is going to be a lot more than this number. Also, there is a lot more star seeds that came. So it's like things are looking very good. And there's actually nothing to be afraid of in a sense, because not only do you have this situation where more and more people than was originally anticipated will be able to make the jump, but you also have the technology in this day and age to help mitigate the effects of what would come after the solar flash.
Mm-hmm. And is that when people are going to be living more in a community base?
Well, it's not only about that, but it will be like, I don't want to spoil it for some people, but it will be like you see like 1,000 rainbows at once type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, they might perceive it as the world is on fire and I can't see a thing. But for some people, it will be very, very beautiful and spiritual, like going on like a psychedelic trip somewhere, like when you use those plant medicines.
Mm-hmm.
But it will just happen spontaneously, and they will feel so high and risen in their beingness. They will rise up and feel so free, and they will be able to see all of their past lives, and they will be able to see their future lives, and they will be like outside of time in a sense for some of them. And for some of them that will be more fearful, they might see where they went wrong and what happened, and like what they could do to improve themselves because they didn't do a good thing. So some of them will be rejoicing and very much in beautifulness, and other ones will be like, no, 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 I I can't believe I wasted my life. I wasted my life. And there will be this realization hit when this beautiful energy comes to them that they have wasted their life working for a system that is very evil in nature and is a slavery for them that traps them. And at that time, they will become very aware of it. But there are multiple ways that each being can experience such a big burst of light. So I don't want to give you any ideas because it will be different for each person.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I want people to know.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Is there anything else that you would want us to know at this time?
Do not be scared about the solar flash. Do not be afraid of it because it will be very, very beautiful for you, especially if you just walk into it like you are not scared of it, and you will just feel very free and beautiful in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that perspective. Would I be able to call in my guides? Uh,
Okay, if they are just, I can just paraphrase for you.
if you could, that'd be great. While we're here, um, would they be able to do a scan for me and tell me what's happening there?
There is a masculine one with shorter hair.
Okay.
Do you know this one?
Yeah.
He looks like a young man and he has short hair.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And he's pointing to an area underneath your left rib cage.
Mm-hmm.
He says you need to direct a flash of light at this point.
What's happening?
And so I'm seeing some Elohims. They have joined in to direct the flash of light. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay with this guide. He has shorter hair,
Mm-hmm.
this one with short hair, and he looks like a young man. And they are just holding out their energy beams, and there was just some issues with the spine as well. So they are just giving some energy and giving some light.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. What caused this, would you say?
He is saying that there was something in the childhood that disturbed you in a sense. Maybe it's something that you don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I remember.
It was when you were somewhat young, like 5 or under.
Are they able to elaborate as to what happened?
No, there was a time when you were 7 years old as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was something that you saw on TV that must have frightened you. Something that you watched on the television
Mm-hmm.
that was scary to you. And it gave you a fright
Mm-hmm.
and you jumped out of your body.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, they had all sorts of strange things on the TV back then.
Mm-hmm.
This was scary to the children. My lower self was scared of some movies on the TV as well. So I'm just healing this because that was very frightening for the child.
Mm-hmm.
For the inner child, it gets very frightened and does not understand that what it is seeing is just a movie or a TV show.
Mm-hmm. And how does that affect the person or how did that affect me?
Well, you jumped out, you got a big fright from what you saw on the TV. You're
Mm-hmm.
watching a TV show and you jumped out of your body that you got so much of a fright. And you didn't come back into the body until much later on that night. You were out of the body for quite some time. You didn't want to be in there. It was so scary to you. But eventually you came back into the body. But this was quite scary for you, so it created an impression in the energy body.
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it's quite unusual things that children can be very frightened of, because especially the sensitive ones, sometimes, very little things frighten the souls of these very sensitive beings.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I was frightened, my lower self as a child was frightened of pool cleaners. It seems so silly, but she was so scared that she screamed and screamed and screamed because she heard some story about, like, children are very impressionable, and she heard a story about somebody's guts being sucked out from a pool cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
And so she got very scared of these.
Would you be able to see if or can they tell us whether those bugs in the stomach have gone or they're still there?
The energetic parasite, these are just like little things that we get caught in our energy field and they need to clear out after a while when something happens to us, or we open up our energy fields.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing your guide, he's clearing the remnants of these out. There's not many left. The
Mm-hmm.
one with the short hair,
Do you have a name?
he says his name is Simon.
Okay.
He looks like he has very short shaved type of hair, like almost like a military type of look about him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very, like, he looks Caucasian in a sense, like white,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just wearing some white robes. I think he is a human from Earth, actually. That's just helping you at this time.
Okay.
He has like a big brother sort of energy. He reminds me of my brother on Earth in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
He has blonde hair that is short.
Okay. And I did like a session with tuning forks not that long ago. Was that helpful for my um clearing my prana pool?
Oh yes, very much so, very much so. I have bought some, my lower self has bought tuning forks as well. And this is very helpful for the different senses of the body. And if you want to know more about tuning forks, you can contact Toth because he was an expert in this sense, in the tuning forks. But I must remember to clean my essence with the tuning forks every day. This is helpful for me.
Would like YouTube clips help with clearing this? Does it do the same effect? Is it the
Or what the videos where you leave them on overnight? Yes, this helps somewhat, but it works better to use the tuning fork because it doesn't come out of the mechanical sound that is from the device. It is more pure
Mhm.
in a sense.
Is there anything else I need to work on the body?
They're just saying to drink more water,
Mhm.
Especially everyone needs to drink more water at these times because there's huge energies coming in. So to drink water, this goes for everyone. Drink more water and then walk out some of these energies. Go on a walk and move the energies through the body.
Mm-hmm. Is do I still have issues with the solar plex that they mentioned earlier? I mean, at another session.
This is going much better now at the moment. You have cleared this out sufficiently.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say something that your guide Simon, he died in a car crash. He was a young man and he was going very, very fast, and then he died. And he decided to become a guide. He
Okay.
decided to become a guide for people and to help them because he was a very bright and joyful soul. He just, sometimes, certain beings, they end their lives very quickly, and that's all that they need to do in their contract. And Simon was one of these type of guys.
Okay. Is there anything else that he wants me to be aware of?
He's just saying that, you're going really, really well with what you're doing. And it's like a pleasure for him to assist you at this time. It would be helpful as well to breathe more deeply and to do those things like drink more water.
Mm-hmm.
That would help a lot with the energies coming through. But you are taking the energies on very well. But sometimes, there can be some bloating in the body because the energies are not making it around. And to ease this bloating, it would be good to exercise and
Mm-hmm.
to drink water and to move, and that moves the energies through, or to sit the body on the ground and to ground yourself. That also helps with moving the energies through the body.
Okay. Is there anything else I need to work on at this time?
I think you are going very, very well. There is not so much else to say, but you will start to have your own UFO type of experiences. If you want to reach out, then they are there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So do not be shy to do such a thing. If you want to see them, then they will show themselves to you.
Okay.
And this can be very helpful for you.
Mm-hmm. Is there any I forgot what the word was. Any special kit skills that I could bring back to myself now?
Yes, these would be from the Atlantis times in the City of Light,
Mm-hmm.
especially these ones for this point in time, and the telepathy as well. So all of those things that you used to do in this particular lifetime would be good to bring back at this point, but also extraterrestrial lifetimes. The skills from these times are particularly calling.
And how would I harness that? By grounding and exercising, would you say, and drinking water?
Yes, but also to go within yourself
Mm-hmm.
and to it it can be much easier to meditate if you can place crystals on the body and just focus the energies into this area.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can meditate very, very easily with use of crystals. You can go very deep into your meditations. And
Mm-hmm.
in this aspect, you can find more of your inner selves, the selves that you used to be, and bring them out. In
Mm-hmm.
particular, there is the Arcturian type of energy. That is why, they did help you in a sense.
Mm-hmm. What is the relationship that I have with the Victorians?
Well, it's like you used to be one of them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point where you did have a life as an Arcturian. It would be good. That's why they were interested in you. But a lot of starseed type of beings that have come here, they have Arcturian connections because they are very helpful to the earth at this time, and they have many plans to do with the earth and to raise the vibration of the earth and to be of assistance. So typically, they it's very difficult for them to come, but they will come anyway so they can share what they have and such gifts.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the Arcturians, they have their own light languages, which is written and spoken, and you can connect to this at any time. And they gave me a packet of language actually. They gave me a packet of light languages that, as a gift, if I wanted to activate people to draw these,
Mm-hmm.
but I will also share these with you, with your beingness.
Thank
I
you.
will decide to share this information
Mm-hmm.
to your soul as a download because I have not been doing this. I have not been drawing these symbols, and maybe it would be quite silly for me to not use this gift effectively. So I am opening up this activation for anyone who wants to use this gift, anyone who is listening,
Mm-hmm.
to use the Arcturian light language. I am giving the gift to everyone listening,
Mm-hmm. Beautiful
the
thing.
gift of being able to draw these symbols.
Mm-hmm.
If one looks within themselves, then they can start drawing these symbols.
Would you say that I have Palladian essence within me as well?
Yes, yes, and I have this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have this within me because I have had a Pleiadian lifetime or a star seed incarnation when I was seeding light into their civilization. I put a small aspect of myself, and then I was a Pleiadian woman.
Mm-hmm. What would you say my soul family is?
Well, you have the people, some people they are from the Atlantean sort of school of light. There is the Brotherhood of Light, an association with the Syrian beings. They were heavily involved with the earth at this time. So there are some beings from the mystery schools of the Brotherhood of Light from the Atlantean times, and which is connected to the Syrian beings.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the Arcturian beings and the Pleiadian beings. But strongly, I definitely would like it if you connected with the the brotherhood of the light
Mm-hmm.
from this time, because these teachings can be brought forward.
And that can just be done through meditation.
Yes, yes, there are some men in white robes and such. And they look like some of them have like long, sort of white hair type of thing, and others they are like wearing long robes. And this is the Brotherhood of the Light of Atlantis and whatnot. They have connections to the Brotherhood of the Light anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that. Is there anything else that you want us to know at this time, or are we complete?
I believe that the Kalu people too have connections to the Brotherhood of the Light.
Mm-hmm.
So I urge people to go into their Kalu lifetimes as the wandering Kalu people. And I want people to begin to remember this, and to begin to remember the teachings of Thoth, the things that he taught them.
Mm-hmm. The people that listen to these sessions, do they have remembrance from those times that you speak of?
Yes, they are. They are connected to these times in a sense, and I'm especially calling out the people who were of the Brotherhood of the Light and who were in the City of Light of Atlantis learning.
Mm-hmm.
I especially want these ones to come back online and to remember these aspects of themselves, and especially the Kalu people. The Kalu people, as spoken of in the Dolores Canon Jesus books.
Mm-hmm.
These people need to come forward now and to share their stories. I would especially like it if, a Kalu person, had a session like this and was able to share their stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'd be wonderful if you could help someone come forward to share.
Yes,
That'd be nice.
yes, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.